Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9 to 5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast, the #1 podcast for the strategies, tactics, and actions high wage earners need for living an intentionally designed life of wealth and resilience.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in building the wealthy and resilient life that you're looking to build and do that much faster. I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I am super excited to welcome you back to another one of our very brief solo episodes. And before I do that, I also want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you that continues to share the podcast. Well, first of all, download the podcast, share it with your family and friends, and also continue to help to bring more people to the Go Along family. That's one of the things we really, really appreciate, and also helps to keep the podcast in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. So for those of you that are tagging us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, really want to say thank you so much. And if you want to leave your honest written review and rating and you don't know how, there's a nice little short video. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes. So also with that, for anyone who wants to see any of the over 410 episodes at this point, all you need to do is go to billykeels.com/podcast. You can check out the video, the audio, the transcripts. Everything will be there for you at billykeels.com/podcast. So today in this reflection that I want to do, this is something that comes up frequently in advisory calls that I'm having with advisory clients, but also too, even in the calls up to that, a lot of people are finding us through either LinkedIn or you clicking on the link that's here in the show notes because you want to talk about stuff. And it's this thing that I was like, it was so tough because I was in the corporate limelight. I was on the front line. I was in leadership. I was, helping the company to bring in, millions of euros, sometimes tens of millions of euros on an annual basis. And it's just one of these things that when you are someone who is in a high profile role, you're earning, you're one of these people that's earning $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, if not more. A lot of people we work with are earning even more than that. It's one of these things that, what's the best way to say it? Let me just tell you a little bit about what happened to me. So when I was in corporate and I enjoyed what I was doing. I really enjoyed it. At a certain point, I thought that I loved it. I actually now realize that I liked it a lot because I was solving really big problems. It was working with in C-level companies or C-level organizations or within this C-level of very large multi-billion euro revenue companies. And it was one of these things where, I had so much energy and focus that was in my day job. And at the same time, I'd gotten a glimpse of what it was to have a side hustle. And this side hustle thing was something that I actually liked because I wanted to have more control over my time. It was, at the same time, it was something that was it started to get me a little bit distracted from what I was doing in the day job. Like I said, I had a lot of energy. I felt my energy actually shifting from the day job that I thought I loved to the one that I actually liked a lot. And it started going to this thing, this side hustle. For me at the time, it was real estate. And when I started doing that, I started realizing, wow, this thing that I actually am not making nearly as much money, it's starting to really take a lot of my time and energy and effort. And I also started to have some early success. And what I mean by that is the early success is that I started making the money that I was thinking of that I was going to make and actually surpass that in a much shorter time span. Well, maybe let me break that down a little bit. So I was at a point where with real estate, I wanted to be able to generate a 4-figure revenue and wanted to be able to do that in 5 years. So 60 months. That was really what I thought I wanted to do because I wanted the money. Everybody talks about the money, right? But on the inside, what I really wanted was I wanted to just be able to have more control over my time. That's what I really wanted because I knew that if I had more control over my time, I could do the stuff that I wanted to do with the people that I love the most. And I know I've talked a lot about that and I won't over talk about it, but missing my son's 3rd birthday party, that was a big deal for me. And I realized that I needed to have, and I wanted to have more control over my time. That came a bit later. So one of the things that happened was as I started getting distracted from my 9 to 5, because I was paying more attention to the side hustle, I started getting super nervous because everything that I had done up until this point, a lot of my identification was rolled up in my job. Like whether I was a manager, director, moving into VP, wanted to be an SVP, wanted to be a general manager, wanted to be the CEO, like my self identity was all wrapped up in that. And so I started, as I was getting more distracted by my side hustle that was actually giving me not as much revenue, but giving me more emotional fulfillment, and started helping me realize, like, wow, I can use a lot of these skills in my day job and I'm actually building something on my own. But at the same time, like I got scared. I got super scared because what would my bosses think if they found out? What would my colleagues say about me if they found out? Like making a lot of money, nice 6-figure, healthy salary, great benefits, the German luxury car, the wonderful insurance package, all of this stuff. And I was going to risk it to earn like a 4-figure side hustle. So the thing is that was kind of going on inside of me, but I had this like real proof of concept. Like the proof of concept is we use a lot in the software space, but I knew that because at the time I had 10 doors that were producing income. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real. Like I can actually do this, but I'm scared because my bosses may find out. And so I knew that I had to kind of like, I had this proof of concept. So I wanted to be able to move forward. And I said, all right, look, I've got to sit down. I've got to stop. I've got to figure out how can I do more of this plan? Like, how can I do more of this doors? Like, how can I get more of them? Because if I can get more of them, then I'll actually get to a point where I'll be beyond the 4 figures, maybe 5 figures, maybe 6 figures a month. My brain started working like, what could I do? But at the same time, I was like, but if everybody finds out, I'm going to put my, 6-figure salary on in jeopardy. I'm gonna maybe lose that nice German luxury car. I may lose some of the benefits because I'll be out on the street. So I sat down. I figured out how can I multiply this because I only had 24 hours in a day. I was working, 12, 14 hours a day. And at the same time, it was like, I've got to be able to multiply. So I started figuring out like, what could I do? How do I multiply my time? How can I make sure that while I'm still performing in my job, because that was super important. That was a lot of the fear that was driven from like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm not doing my job. It also slowed me down. But I had to figure out how to put infrastructure in place, make sure that the right resources were there, meaning capital, also find the right people that were also a part of the vision, help me increase my revenue. I also realized that at that point in time, taxes were something that was a huge deal because I was paying like enormous amount of taxes. So I had to figure out how to also not just make more money, but keep more money. And I got to a certain point, and I I did actually get questioned in my corporate job. Like there was this thing that I got cheating. I was cheating on my corporate job, and the question came in like, "Well, are you working here? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing?" And so, fortunately, I was achieving against my targets. I was overachieving against my target, but I dared to put myself out there. I started putting myself on social media. I started putting myself on LinkedIn. I was all over the place because I kind of quietly started in Facebook and was doing some personal posts. And then little by little, I started letting people know what I was doing because I wanted people to know, because I wanted to be able to serve other people. And so as I did more and more of that, I put myself out there, and I did get caught, right? I got caught. I got caught cheating on my employer because I had a side hustle, right? I had a side thing. And so what I can tell you is when the question came up, fortunately, I was doing my job because that was one of the things that was always really important, to be ahead of whatever the company said that I was supposed to be doing. And then when the questions were asked, well, it was pretty clear. Like, yeah, I was doing something on the side, but it in no way was impacting my ability to achieve or overachieve against the targets that the company set for me. So felt that I was doing what I needed to do. But what I realized later, and this was the thing that was after getting questioned, after getting caught by my employer, was I realized that my confidence had increased because not only was I able to perform in my day job, I was also able to use a lot of the skills that I had to start to leverage this little thing that was filling my heart and energizing me. And I started to fall in love with my side hustle. It was giving me more and more energy, and it helped me to also be able to um, move forward, serving more people. And it also, while I was doing this and I was putting myself out there, I was able to test a lot of the ideas and test and get feedback directly from uh, the marketplace, the people that I wanted to serve. Like, was it something that I could do more of? Was it something that I needed to adjust, that I needed to change, that I needed to make a better offering? And so that's what motivated me to continue to look to grow beyond my 9 to 5. And so the reason that I share this with you is, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen if you do get caught? Like, I got caught with my side gig, with my side hustle. And so the fear is real, like, because I lived it. And so if you feel like you're going through that, well, just recognize what's happening. Do a check in with yourself. Are you performing in your job? Are you performing in your role? If you are, well, then what's to stop you from continuing to do that? And I know every culture is different and every company is different. And like, I worked in a very high stress, highly paid, highly regarded and recognized type of role and company. And so I get it. And at the same time, when you are performing in your company and you have the opportunity or the desire to build something for yourself, and you need that guidance and you need that help, it's available to you. Don't do like I did for many years before I actually went out and I got somebody to help me, someone from the outside, someone who was not attached to my family, was not attached to my work, and gave me a very high touch experience. That's what I needed. I didn't want to wait for groups to get my questions answered. I wanted my question answered in the moment that I wanted it answered, and to help me feel like, okay, getting caught was worth it. And so if you struggle with this, if this is one of the things that you have gone through, you're not the only one. But just realize there's some really easy steps. It's to make sure that you are performing in your role, in your day job, to minimize the risk of you having to do anything else, or your number gets called one day in your company, and then at that point in time, you've got to look for something else. I mean, I've even had one of the episodes recently. I talked about that actually in episode 419. Like, if you ever get sacked from your cushy job, well, what do you do? But anyway, so not to digress, but you are not alone. I've been there. I know what you're going through, how you're feeling, and hopefully you can listen to this again, or share this with family, share this with friends, or maybe you know somebody who's going through it. You don't have to do it alone. You really don't. It kind of sucks going through it alone. You can talk to people, you can get ideas. Like, this should hopefully gives you an idea. Like, I got caught red-handed, and it's okay. I'm okay. You will be okay. So I think I'm going to leave it there. But for those of you who want to, like I said, share this episode with family, friends, with others, and talk about it. Like, don't be going through this stuff by yourself. All right. So while you're sharing the episode, taking the theory, putting it into practice, talking about it, I'll be here preparing for the next very brief solo episode. And so until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9 to 5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.